So I just saw The Running Man, which to be honest was pretty good for a generic, flat, boring, mostly actionless action film that wastes a great satirical concept. I can only dream of a world in which someone directed this who had a unique stylistic flair, who could bring a kinetic, vibrant energy to the film that would really bring this bonkers premise to life. Say like an Edgar Wright. Wait a minute. It's been a big couple of months for Stephen King dystopian adaptations about people exercising. And whilst The Long Walk felt like it was sprinting with such energy and momentum, making a small and isolated idea feel so large and powerful, The Running Man, a huge idea, barely manages to get from a tired crawl to a staggered, uneven walk. Edgar Wright, director of this film, has made 3 perfect films, a perfect spiritual trilogy that is honestly a miracle of cinema. And he's made a few others that people do love that aren't personally my favorites, but they are nothing if not creatively colorful, ambitious, wildly inventive, and all have this kinetic, vibrant, infectious energy and momentum that is just so exciting and exhilarating and just pure cinematic magic. Edgar Wright has been cooking for so long, he has got that Hollywood juice. Or at least, he had that juice. Did someone steal his juice? Now, I'm not asking him to make the same film again and again and again, and I'm not saying they all need to have the same editing style of the Cornetto trilogy, but honestly, my biggest issue with this film is its direction, which to be honest, never in my wildest dreams would have I considered that to ever be an issue with one of his films, regardless of whether I liked it or not. The film feels and looks and moves in such a flat, emotionless way. Not just the action, but the entire film is just staged and blocked in such a boring, dull, unimaginative way that makes the film feel so sterile and corporate. Now, that's not to say every part of this film feels flat. There are sparks of life in this film, but it's never enough to jolt it fully awake from its tired slumber. Somehow, Michael Cera, with the most gloriously scraggly, dirty shithouse beard you will ever see in a Hollywood movie, somehow he's the one to inject this film with a much-needed jolt of energy, and it's the only time the film starts to really feel like it was directed by an actual director, and not a studio gun for hire. And honestly, I wouldn't have even cared about any of this if it was just, some director. I don't know, some guy I've never heard of. Like the guy who made Heads of State. But this wasn't the guy, apologies to this man, who directed Heads of State, whatever his name is. This is Edgar Wright. Edgar fucking Wright, man. Like, he's one of the great directors. He's such a gloriously unique and stylistic auteur that never sacrifices plot, themes, and heart for his big style. One of the greatest style and substance directors making big, flashy genre pictures. So I don't know, man, just watching this film was just such a disappointing experience. Such a baffling film. It's such a shame. What happened? Is it just too much money? Was it simply my expectations? Is it even his fault? Was he just a gun for hire? Is it just that he's older and less energized to make such frantic films? Or maybe Simon Pegg is the one who was bringing the humor, heart, and soul to the characters that elevated the style into something really special. Who knows what the answer is and how this happened? And honestly, this won't stop me watching his next film, but it doesn't stop me from being deeply disappointed by the wasted potential of this film paired with this director. And if you think I'm just some grumpy old man complaining that things aren't as good as they were back in the old days, which I am, even the trailer company agrees with me. They cut the trailers of this movie into a Cornetto trilogy Edgar Wright style, which this film does not have whatsoever. But enough about the direction. Let's talk other issues I had with this film, because oh boy, I've got a list. So unlike Arnie's very silly, but still very fun and of the era stupid, goofy, spandexy The Running Man, but more like The Fighting Man, because it's not really an adaptation of The Running Man, so he doesn't really do that much running. This film is The Running Man, and it is a much more close adaptation of the book. He does running and stuff, and so he's not in a game show in a studio, but he's a man being hunted by the entire public for 30 days. And for that premise, it's very lacking in the action and the paranoid survival aspects that you would expect from that premise. It's mostly just Glen Powell meeting people who will help him and hide him, and he wears a fake mustache and glasses and he's totally fine for most of it, until the plot's like, oh shit, we've probably meandered a bit too much. Time for another uninspired shootout. This story and this idea, I think, could either fall in two camps. It could be far more serious in tone and lean into that sweaty, paranoid thriller aspects of surviving a world where anyone and everyone will turn you in for a buck. Or it could lean into the very silly and comical side of a non-stop action film that keeps getting more ridiculous and insane as the action ramps up, as everyone in the world is trying to turn on him and all these colorful hunters are out to catch him. This film strangely decides to not commit to either idea, but still attempt to half-ass both ideas. So it just becomes very tonally muddled and confused as it tries to have its cake and eat it too, but instead just feels very unsure of what type of film it wants to be. And so in the end, it just becomes very generic and heavy-handed. The emotional core to this film is generic wife and cliche sick daughter, and you will feel nothing for them, which is such a shame and a missed opportunity. And every now and then, Glen Powell will hold his sick daughter's sock in his hand to remind you there's supposedly a heart to this film, but you will mostly just be reminded that, like, oh yeah, they exist in this film. I forgot. Too little invested in the heart of the story at the start of the film for the payoffs at the end to be meaningful in any way whatsoever. One of the main themes of this film is that there's an uprising of the poor against the evil rich guys who control the media and our lives. And while obviously the fight the corrupt power message is good, it's so paint by numbers and painfully heavy-handed and is never elevated beyond the idea I've seen done better in other films. It's not satirical enough, or funny enough, or seriously thought-provoking and challenging enough to be interesting in any other way than the mild nod of your head as you go, yeah, rich billionaires who control the world suck. Great point. There's a bunch of deepfake AI media manipulation stuff in this film that is pretty interesting, and one of the more fascinating aspects of the film. But like everything in this, it never does anything more than exactly what you would expect, and nothing beyond what they did in the Arnie film decades before deepfakes were even a standard part of life, so it feels particularly uninspired. Glen Powell is a movie star. He's been effortlessly charismatic and charming since Scream Queens, and whilst he's good in this and always very watchable, there is a bit of overacting early on as he plays, quote unquote, the angriest man who's ever applied for Running Man. Sorry, Glen Powell, but you're too sexy to be the angriest man ever. Wait, sorry, hold on. I can hear it. I can hear it too. I can hear the jealousy. But he is charming and very likable in this, even if he's not given much beyond generic poor guy who hates rich people caricature. The end of the film is when it completely loses me. It's a painfully stupid wish fulfillment, hot nonsense end that makes zero sense and fails to emotionally resonate and feels instead like a Hollywood last-minute rewrite. Which, considering the end of the book, is pretty much exactly what it is. It completely fails to do anything other than lose the last of any goodwill I had for the basic premise and world they had set up. In the end, this is fine. Probably not as bad as I found it, if I'm going to be completely honest, but I just wanted so much more than fine from Edgar Wright. I know he's better than this. Well, at least I hope he still is. Oh well, we'll always have the Cornetto trilogy. Thanks for watching, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and comment below. I would love to know, what did you think of The Running Man?